I remember that when you were in Ilocos Norte, you had a program on tourism where you open houses, houses there for tourists. Halimbawa, Italy, kita na taga-Italia yung nagtao. And consistent with that, I also asked, how do you intend to solve the energy insufficiency problem that we have? And I understand you have the wind farm in
Yes.
how do you how do you intend to come up with these two big projects that could possibly revitalize the economy?
The two being energy and
tourism.
Well, tourism is one of the things that I think in the immediate, in the short term, let's say, is something that we can encourage because we have a very ganda-ganda ng Pilipinas. The Filipinos are very hospitable and gracious, and mahal tayo ng buong mundo, so people will want to come. So I think tourism is one of those. I said we have to have a targeted investment approach for public investment, and I think tourism is going to be one of those areas that immediately, because if you notice, remember nung medyo gumagaang na yung COVID, medyo bumababa na at nagbukas na yung mga tourism areas, nagpuntahan kagad ng tao, nagdagsaan kagad ng tao. So the domestic tourism can take the load until foreign travel or international travel can become more rationalized, can go back to the levels, pre-COVID levels. So it is, for me, it's an important short-term, not short-term, but immediate solution. It will go into the long term because it's a good industry. It's an important industry for us. So but now what we have to do now, if we're going to talk about international tourism, ang airport natin, hanggang 6.5 million a year lang talaga yung the capacity to receive international travelers. So it's time to look at, again, we go back to infra. Look at the airports around in those places that have tourism destinations. Look at the infrastructure. Simple things like the road going back and forth, the lighting, yun ang mga na-experience namin sa Ilocos was, these are just simple things that we need to put in place. But they are not difficult. So let's already start, siguro by now, on infra development on the areas that we feel are going to be important for the tourism industry. And one of the most unfortunate recent developments was Odette. Ang dinaanan ng Odette, lahat ng tourism areas. And this was going to be the coming out Christmas for the tourism industry. Siargao was completely fully booked. Bohol was completely fully booked. Palawan completely fully booked. Tapos Cebu. Tapos doon na nitong Odette. So we have to come back from that. Wala tayong magagawa. Nangyari. So tourism is definitely going to be a very important part of that. Now, as to the second sector, the energy sector, that is a much more complicated situation. We are also trying to develop our energy supply in the context of increasing concern over global warming. And that COP29 that they had in Edinburgh was Glasgow. Anyway, in Scotland, the countries around the world decided we will cut down on coal. What happened when we canceled all the coal? Nagkulang, tumaas ang presyo ng kuryente because hindi pa ma-replace ng renewables. So the supply shrunk and the prices went up. So we have to be more careful in none of these sudden moves that we have been seeing. What we need to do is decide for the Philippines, if we are going to play a part in global to combat global warming, what the mix should be between renewables and traditional. And although we are, of course, in the Ilocos Norte, great proponents of renewables because of the wind, we started with the wind farm, we are now developing solar. There is still a recognition that there is a base load that we have to attend to, which needs to be supplied by traditional forms of power generation. Now we can also expand and develop our geothermal, our hydro electric. We can the solar power has become more viable. In fact, I think when it comes to when you crunch the numbers, I think it is now better than wind farms because the efficiency of the technology has increased, the price of the capital expenditure for it has decreased. So it's become more viable, and it's perfect for the Philippines because windmills need to be in a very particular kind of wind situation. Kaya Ilocos, pwede kami mag-windmill. There are other places na pwede mag-windmill, but there are other places na hindi dahil malakas ang hangin, sasabihin malakas ang hangin dito, hindi ganun. There are some technical requirements so that it will be viable for wind farm. However, solar in the Philippines, anywhere you bring solar, it's going to be viable. So that's something that we need to develop. However, to go back to that other point that we have to take care of the base load, we still need to have traditional sources of power. And of course, the oil-fired, coal-fired, binabawasan pa rin natin, but there are new technologies actually that I've been to China, and I've been to a coal-fired power plant. It was 200 yards from a school, and there was no pollution. So baka pwede nating i-adapt yun. But we still have to continuously look at oil-fired and that very pinag-uusapan nuclear. Because right now, actually, if run properly, nuclear is a better, cleaner way of producing power than the traditional oil-fired, coal-fired plants. So that's something we have to look at now again. But let us look at they talk about the rehabilitation and the possible start-up of the Bataan nuclear power plant. I think it should be examined properly because the experience of other countries still brings them back to nuclear. France is eventually going to. They were at some point in the 60% already. Talagang majority na. America continues to build nuclear plants. Japan, the same thing, because wala silang oil. And so maybe we should look into it in a serious way. But let us do it and let's follow the science. We all know naman what happened in 1986, that the nuclear power plant became a political issue. It's the only reason why it doesn't run now. The sister plants in Korea, ironically called Cory 1, Cory 2, Cory 3, and Cory 4, and Cory 5. The sister plants that were built by Westinghouse in Korea have done so well that pinadami nila. Isa lang yung Cory 1 tapos sinundan kagad ng Cory 2, 3, 4. Ngayon nag-iisip pa na naman sila ng isa pa. And these are the sister plants of the Bataan nuclear power plant. In fact, Korea has already made an offer to come and inspect our nuclear power plant and see what can be done. So let us examine that, and with an objective eye. Huwag na natin gawin pang-politika. Follow the science. Like in anything else, let's follow the science and see. Let's crunch the numbers. Is it still feasible? Is it still a valid option? Or if not, do we have to build a new one? And how do we do that? In other words, we need them all. Because when you talk to investors, and I'm talking both about local and foreign, when you talk to investors, the issue of the price of power, the reliability and availability of power always comes up, always, even local businessmen. And so nakita mo talagang malaking sagabal yan sa development ng ekonomiya. And as we all know, you cannot develop to further industrialize our country if yung mga manufacturing namatay dahil dun sa power. Kaya mahina, ang liit na ng manufacturing sector natin. So to get that back, we really need all sources of power. But we have to fix the system. Ang power ang cost of power production natin is in line. The cost of production is in line with the other countries. Medyo yung pagka-archipelago natin, maybe it affects that price, but we are still within normal limits. The problem then, hindi ba hinati natin sa tatlo? Hinati natin sa generation, sa transmission, at saka sa distribution. Yung transmission, hindi naman siguro problema. That's why I was wondering why Secretary Alcusi was telling MDCP to explain. Hindi naman sila, they just transmit the power. It's the power supply ang problema. And the pricing becomes problematic, and that's why ang tataas ng presyo ng is the distribution. And that means that the electrical cooperatives. And the electrical cooperatives are no longer managed by professionals. They're no longer managed by the consumer members as was the original concept of the electrical cooperative. Kaya binabalikan ngayon ang electrical cooperatives. Some of them have privatized. Some of them have restructured into a more corporate structure. So maybe the efficiencies will improve. And in fact, there are several instances around the country na gumanda talaga ang presyo ng power, because you have things, crazy situations like geothermal comes from Leyte. They have the highest power rates, and that makes no sense. So we have that's an area. It's more of a political problem really than a technical one. We have to change the system. We have to fix the system, and corporatize maybe might be one of those solutions. Ideally, I would like to return it to the original concept of consumer members, so that the consumers actually run. But unfortunately, right now, at least yung nadatnan ko, it became a political appointment. The governor, the city mayor will be the one to say it. Ito na ilagay, pag nawala yung board member, o ito yung palit natin, sila magsasabi. Then they just, I guess, ratify it by the General Assembly. But that was not the electrical cooperatives were formed to assist their rural electrification program, which has run its course. Maraming talaga tayong pinaabot ng electrical na kuryente kahit yung mga malalayo. You build submarine cables, we lay submarine cables and things like that. Now, there are new technologies. Instead of laying submarine cable, maybe we can get a source of power within a small island, diba? Then the new battery technology is actually becoming practical. We are lucky that now the Philippines has a lot of nickel and we have sources of lithium. So maybe we can even make those batteries here. So there are many opportunities, but it is not a small problem. It is something that we have to look at and find a solution for if the economy is going to grow beyond pre-COVID levels. So if we are going to hope for positive growth, we need to attend to the power problem.